Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into something that you, me, and honestly, almost every single working class family across the country feels the absolute second we pull out of the driveway. We are talking about pump pressure. Yep, Americans are feeling the squeeze at the gas pump once again, and as we're going to see today, this isn't just a localized economic headache, it is rapidly evolving into a massive political hurdle. So let's dive right in and see exactly what's happening. $4.50. Ouch, right? That is the striking number working families are staring down right now. According to recent reporting by CBS News, the national average price for a gallon of gas has surged sharply over the last few months, climbing right past that $4.50 mark. And, keep in mind, that's just the national average. Depending on where you live, you might be seeing prices significantly higher than that. It represents a very immediate, incredibly tangible reality for millions of us. But what does that average actually mean on the ground? Well, for millions of everyday families, it literally just means more money out the window, trying to get through a normal routine. It's that quiet, creeping anxiety of watching the meter tick up and up while you're just trying to fill the tank for the morning commute, or dropping the kids off at school, or running to the grocery store. For working and middle-class households, fuel isn't some luxury you can just cut back on. It's a non-negotiable expense. When that price jumps, it actively drains wallets and forces some really tough choices around the kitchen table. Section 1. The economic ripple effect. How gas prices trigger a cascade of costs. Now, this brings us to exactly why folks are getting so increasingly worried about overall inflation. Look, higher fuel costs do not exist in a vacuum. When the cost of diesel and gas goes up, it triggers a massive cascade. Think about it. The truck delivering food to your town faces higher overhead, which means suddenly your groceries cost more. Broad transportation networks pass down those fees. Airline tickets surge. Even shipping that online order from a warehouse to your front door carries a premium now. Ultimately, the price of everyday products on the store shelves goes up simply because it costs more to get them there. It bakes these higher costs into the very foundation of our daily lives. And that brings us to a really crucial historical reality. Historically, the American economy plays a massive role in how the public views its leadership. When people feel financially secure, leaders usually gain support. But as economic experts point out, when prices rise faster than wages, when that gap starts widening, public frustration grows incredibly fast. Experts are actively warning that if these high fuel prices stick around for a few more months, that inflation is going to continue putting a severe hurt on working class families everywhere. To put that public frustration into perspective, let's look at some polling data from the Daily Beast. It reveals a really stark contrast in the national mood right now. On one side, you have a very, very small percentage of Americans who say they actually feel enthusiastic about our current economic direction. But on the other side, a much, much larger group describes themselves as angry or frustrated. That is a massive sentiment gap, and it tells us that this economic anxiety is taking a very real, measurable toll on how people feel every single day. Section 2. The political blame game. Who is responsible for the pressure? Well, it turns out voters are directly pointing fingers at the current administration. According to a new CBS News and YouGov poll, nearly 2/3 of Americans, that's 66%, currently believe that President Donald Trump's economic policies are making the economy worse, at least in the short term. Because fuel prices have risen so sharply, new polls are suggesting the president's approval readings might actually be taking a direct hit as a result. So, in response to this mounting pressure, President Trump has recently backed the idea of temporarily suspending the federal gas tax. The goal here is pretty straightforward: help lower costs directly for drivers right at the pump. And he definitely continues to maintain strong support among many Republican voters for these kinds of initiatives. However, critics of the plan argue that a tax suspension would only provide really limited relief. Why? Well, because the underlying issue, which is highly unstable global oil prices, remains. And honestly, that leads us perfectly into how the two major parties are framing this whole issue. On one side, Republicans and the president's supporters emphasize that rising energy prices are largely driven by global conflicts and international oil market disruptions, factors completely outside of the White House's direct control. Meanwhile, Democrats argue the exact opposite. They're making the case that the president's specific economic policies are actively adding even more pressure to struggling households. So we're seeing a clear, definitive split in the narrative here. Section 3. Looking toward 2026. The battle for economic trust. Because let's be real, this debate is rapidly becoming much, much bigger than just the cost of a gallon of gas. These localized economic pains are actively laying the groundwork for the midterms, and the key terms shaping the 2026 battlefield: economic anxiety. Right now, so many Americans say they feel a deep uncertainty about the future. It's a heavy state of frustration regarding inflation and just the basic everyday cost of living. Political analysts are looking at this climate and predicting that this specific anxiety is absolutely going to be one of the biggest driving issues when voters head to the polls. Which brings us to the core dilemma facing the White House right now. With millions of Americans already frustrated over living costs, the administration faces a highly difficult challenge in the months ahead. Because the upcoming midterms aren't just about policy, right? They're fundamentally a battle over trust. It's a battle over who the American people trust more to manage the economy during deeply uncertain times. Will voters view this current economic pain as just a temporary passing crisis? Or will they see it as a fundamental sign that the current leadership strategy simply isn't working? And that leaves us with one final overarching question to chew on today, drawn straight from the heart of this debate. When you look at the pressure at the pump, are rising gas prices mainly caused by complex global events and market disruptions, or should our political leaders be held directly responsible for the squeeze on working-class families? It's a massive, complex issue without a simple answer, but it's one that will absolutely define the political landscape over the next 2 years. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.